Yeah, it's actually starting to take off a little bit. Look at that. Huh. Hope we don't have a runaway. But, yeah, look at it go. We went from just a little bit of bubbling to some foaming here just while I've been filming. All right. This is interesting. It's a little bit scary, too. Okay. Well, hello, scrappers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. What have we got up on the bench today? Well, today we've got a little bag here full of jumpers from my friend Johnny, as per usual lately. Most of the jobs I do lately are for Johnny. But he's got a bag full of jumpers here, and I'm sure the purpose of him sending me these is to figure out the yield on these, because knowing Johnny's micro scrapping obsession, he can probably collect tons of these. I mean, literal tons, if you know Johnny. So he probably wants me to tell him whether these are worthwhile. So we will process these and see if we can calculate a yield of gold. Maybe there's some silver in them too, hard to say. And see what we can come up with. So I guess first thing we need to do is weigh them and see what we're dealing with here, weight-wise. Let's see, we've got 0.617 pounds, or 281 grams. And yes, Richard, I know I'm weighing the bag. Don't want him to get away from me. So let's see just how much gold and maybe other precious metals we can get out of 281 grams of jumpers. How do I want to process these? Well, if you know me, you know I'm kind of reluctant to burn stuff. But I'm thinking, since these things are mostly plastic and I don't have a huge amount of them here, that might be the best way to go. I might just want to incinerate these, ash the plastic, and then that should make it pretty easy to separate the metal innards, which are gold plated, from the plastic ash. So we're going to try it, see how it goes. Some plastics ash easier than others, so we'll see how this stuff goes. So let me get set up for that, and we will get started. This should be a fun, hopefully easy, little project with an interesting result. So I got my little Dutch oven on top of my foundry furnace here. I'm going to heat it up and put the little jumpers in it and burn them off. So let me get this thing started. Get it started warming up. Got the jumpers here. We'll see how this goes. Like I said earlier, some kinds of plastic this works pretty good with. Other kinds, I think they're glass filled and it doesn't work so well. So we'll just have to see. I'm probably going to put some ceramic fire brick around the edge of the Dutch oven there to make sure it retains more of the heat coming up out of the foundry furnace. So I'll get that done, and we should be able to see something happening here shortly. Now it's starting to heat up. Ooh, that is some stinky smoke too. I am staying upwind to that. That is nasty. This is one reason I don't like burning plastic. I don't know what's coming out of that. But fortunately the wind's blowing it away from me. Hopefully this will heat up enough that it'll actually catch fire and burn the smoke before it boils off. That'd be nice. There we go. There, even better. I put a piece of pipe on there to act as a chimney, and there's a reburner area in there, so all that nasty smoke's actually burning inside the pipe, and we just got some particulates coming out. It's not too bad. We're not smoking up the neighborhood anyway, and the smoke's a lot less stinky too, so I don't think any neighbors are going to notice or complain. So this should be done pretty quick. Okay, The smoking has pretty much stopped. Okay, the smoking has just about stopped. Let me pull this off. Oh yeah, that's pretty well burned up in there. Got like a solid lump of plastic in there. I'll give you a look at that with my phone. Might have to try and break that up somehow to free up the metal in it. Yeah, that's like a solid puck in there. Yep, look at that. That's a solid puck. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that. Not really sure at this point. This is a problem with doing e-waste that you've never done before. You don't know how it's going to behave. Okay, so this is a prime example of why I don't like to burn plastics if I can get away with it. I mean, everybody in the comments, when I start a project like this and I'm contemplating how to get rid of the plastic and get down to the metal, everybody in the comments says, oh, just burn it, just burn it, just burn it, just burn it.
Cool. Fire, 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 fire.
Well, I know from experience that all doesn't always work well. And now we got some more experience here. Yeah, I got this big hard puck in here now. Got all the metal embedded in it. I got to figure out what to do with it. I should have went with my first instinct, which was to grind those things up in the mighty mill and then float the plastic off with a dense liquid. I got to quit second guessing myself. I mean, I figured there's not much here, not going to make a lot of smoke. It should burn off good, right? No, because probably what we had here was glass-filled plastic. So what happens when you burn that stuff is the fiberglass filling in it melts, and it absorbs into the ash that's produced by burning the plastic, and you wind up with a hard puck of crap here like this that I now have to break up and find a way to pulverize to get the metal out. I'm probably going to end up having to run it through the mighty mill anyway now. So, yeah. Got to quit second guessing myself. Go with my first instincts. Like I said many times, incineration is not always the answer. It's not always even helpful. Okay, let me figure out how I'm going to bust this thing up. I actually see a little bits of gold in it, though. So, I'll figure out how to get it out now. So, what was it I said going into this project? A simple, quick, fun little project? Well, maybe not quite that simple, quick, or fun. At least this thing's breaking up pretty easy. That's good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Lots of gold in there. Let's kind of free up all that gold-plated metal from this gunk now. We may need the mighty mill. I don't know. Maybe I can do it with mortar and pestle. Might be quicker. Alright, let me see. Alright, let's see what I can do here. Might be quicker and easier than getting the mighty mill out and finding a charged battery and having to clean it afterwards. Yeah. There's all the metal coming out. Okay. That freed up all the metal nicely. Now I want to know. Oh, I couldn't get that lucky, could I? It's not magnetic, so separating it from this stuff's not going to be that easy. What I'll probably have to do is, I got my sieves out. What I could probably do is just sieve. This stuff's pretty big for the most part. Just sieve it out and separate it that way. Probably my best bet. Alright, well, this is going to take a little while, but it's actually going pretty quick. So, be back when I'm done. You live and you learn. I'll make that mistake again. I'd have all this separated by now if I just got the mighty mill out and loaded off the plastic once it was all shredded. Not as clean as I'd like it, maybe, but probably clean enough for my purposes, I would say. Got rid of most of that crud, and it only took about a half hour of my time. So, I guess we're ready to move on. Let me get this stuff into a beaker. Pretty big beaker, but better too big than too small. Okay? It's spread out in a thin layer on the bottom, so got a lot of surface area to be exposed to the acid. So what acid do I want to use? Well, I got to dissolve a lot of metal here. Normally I would go with like poor man's nitric just to save my wallet a little bit. But some of these, looking at them, might be silver. So I think for potential silver recovery, I think actual nitric acid is probably the better thing to go with. You know, there's copper in here, quite a bit of it, I'm sure, because these are not magnetic, so they're probably copper. So we're going to have to dissolve a lot of copper, but if there's good silver to get out of it too, I think I'd rather use nitric acid. So let me get this in the fume hood, and we'll start treating it with nitric acid, see if we can get all this base metal and any silver that's in there dissolved and free up all that gold plating. So let's start out as per usual with some distilled water. You don't want to put straight nitric acid on this stuff. 400 milliliters is probably enough. Now we're going to go some nitric acid. Turn the fume hood on. We might have an immediate reaction and a lot of fumes. That's all I'm going to put in for the moment. Oh yeah, look at that. Probably all I need to put in for the moment. This is all stone cold too, by the way. But a nice reaction going on down there. Turn it so you can see it. And the liquid's even turning blue already. So we're dissolving some copper already. I'm going to put a little bit of heat to it. Not too much. I don't want to have a runaway reaction. Look, we're getting brown-orange fumes too. So yeah, we got quite a reaction going on already. So the game plan is going to be, when this reaction dies down, I'm going to put a little bit more nitric acid on it and see if that revives the reaction. If it does, fine, we'll let it go. And I'll keep doing that until I don't get any more reaction. And then hopefully the vast bulk of the base metals and silver in there, if there is any, will be in solution. So this could take a few hours, better part of a day. Not that much material in there. I doubt it'll be a multi-day project. Anyway, yeah, famous last words. Anyway, I'm going to let this go until the reaction dies down. Well, it's been maybe an hour and a half, maybe not quite that long. I've been off mowing the acreage and just left this to its own devices, and well, not much of a reaction going on anymore. I guess it's time for a second feeding of nitric acid. So I'm not going to put quite as much in this time because I don't know if the first edition of nitric acid may have got most of the base metal. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see how that does. Certainly got some more bubbling than we had before, so there's still something in there for the nitric acid to attack. So we'll just let this go and I'll go get busy with something else again. Alright, so my last addition of nitric acid to this produced hardly any reaction. We got a tiny little bit of bubbling and a tiny little bit of orange fuming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this go until there's no more reaction at all. I think we're going to be done. And then I'll turn the heat off and we'll let the liquid settle and clarify. Then we'll test it for silver. I don't like testing a cloudy liquid because it's hard to see if you get a cloud of silver chloride or not. So we'll let it settle, we'll test for silver, and then we'll go on from there. So I'll just let this finish what little reaction is still going on there. Alright, this liquid's had a chance to cool off and settle and clarify. Got a nice clear blue layer of liquid there on top. Nice and transparent. Good, that's just what I was looking for. Didn't want to have to suck up a bunch of sediment off the bottom when I do my test for silver. So how are we going to test for silver? Well, I've got a little bit of tap water here with a splash of hydrochloric acid in it. I'm going to get some of this clear liquid, put it in here, and I would say we have no silver here. That liquid is just as clear as can be, just a little lighter blue. I'll put a little bit more in just to be on the safe side, but I don't think there's any silver here. If there was silver here, we'd be getting an opaque white cloud, and we are not getting that. So I don't think we have any silver in this liquid. So this liquid, this blue liquid, full of copper nitrate, is a waste product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decant this liquid off. I'll rinse the sediment on the bottom of the beaker a couple of times with distilled water. Then we'll go to Aqua Regia and see if we can dissolve whatever amount of gold is in here. So I won't bother showing the rinsing. We'll be back in here when it's done. Well, looks like we got gold in there amongst all that debris on the bottom of the beaker after dumping off the blue liquid and rinsing it a few times. So let's see if we can get that dissolved in some Aqua Regia. Alrighty, this stuff is rinsed and back in the fume hood. Let's do some Aqua Regia here. So in goes some muriatic acid. Oh, and yes, it turns green immediately. It's okay, I was certain I did not get all of the base metals out of this in spite of the nitric acid extraction, because I never do. There's always a little bit hiding in there somewhere, and in spite of how badly I beat this stuff up, I'll bet some of that base metal's hiding under complete coating of gold foil. So it'll probably start going into solution once we hit this with Aqua Regia. So nitric acid now. So there's not quite 3 milliliters. There's not quite 3 milliliters. Call them close to those 2.5, so that's about 5. And another 2.5. Well, that's 7.5. I think I'm going to stop right there and see how that does. Give it a little bit of a stir and put a little bit of heat to it. And yeah, I see some bubbling going on. Yeah, we're starting to get a reaction. So we'll just let that do its thing. Let's see if we can get that gold in solution. Alright, so let this heat up and see what kind of reaction we get. Well, it's been about, I don't know, 20 minutes, maybe closer to half an hour. Getting a reaction. So something's going on in there. Alright, well, just let it continue to go until I don't see a reaction anymore. Now it's actually starting to take off a little bit. Look at that. Huh. Hope we don't have a runaway. But Yeah, look at it go. We went from just a little bit of bubbling to some foaming here just while I've been filming. All right. This is interesting. It's a little bit scary too. Okay. I'm glad I caught this on camera. We went from almost nothing to this in the span of only a little over a minute. I got enough so nice brown orange fumes filling the beaker. We'll turn the heat down a little bit just so this doesn't get too crazy. Wow. I was thinking it was lackluster there for a while, but yeah, it went to pretty vigorous really quickly. I'm going to keep my eye on it and make sure it doesn't boil over. But it seems to have decided not to get hot much higher than that. Okay. So we're just going to let it cook. And this calms down. Maybe we'll do a stannous chloride test, see if we got any gold in solution. Alright, Mount Vesuvius in here has calmed down some. So let's see about a stannous chloride test here. A little bit of this stuff. Ooh, it's nice and black already. I don't know if that's going to tell me much. Or maybe more like dark green. But we'll give it a shot. See what it looks like. Let me move the camera over to the workbench and we'll do it over there. Yeah, that's definitely some dark green, goopy looking Aqua Regia. Uh-oh. Well, that's interesting. It's only the faintest purple. The green color cleared up nicely, but it left behind only a faint purple. So what that tells me is that big reaction that we were seeing going on in there, that was base metal going into solution, not gold. I'm going to have to hit that stuff with some more nitric acid and see if we can get the gold to actually go into solution. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. There's still a lot of base metal in there that the nitric acid extraction didn't get a chance to deal with. So put about the same amount of nitric acid in again. Maybe. It's hot now. It takes off immediately. I don't want to have a boil over, so I'm going to put that much in and stop. It's about 7.5 milliliters again. And there it goes. Okay. But it looks like that's about as high as it's going to rise. Okay, so we'll just let this do its thing. And then we'll do another stannous chloride test. In fact, what I will probably do is I'll wait till this calms down and put some more nitric acid on it. I'm not going to worry about over nitricking it. And we'll see when the nitric acid no longer produces any real reaction. Then I suspect we'll have some real gold in solution then. Okay, so this may take a while. All right, it's a little while later, a couple of additions of nitric acid later. It's a lot calmer over here. Still got some brown orange fumes in there, but I think they're mainly dissipating. Hey, the liquid's a little lighter green. That's interesting. Adding more nitric acid lightened it out. All right, let's go have a look at what we got this time. Yeah, the color difference is striking. Stannous chloride on there. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Not just purple, dark black. We got gold in solution. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to let that sit in there for a little while longer, finish reacting, and then we'll de-nox it and filter it. All right, we are just about ready to start de-noxing this stuff, but first I'm going to add a little bit of concentrated sulfuric acid to it, just to make sure any lead in here drops out of solution as lead sulfate. Just a couple milliliters. I kind of doubt there's any lead in these jumpers, but just in case there is, we'll go ahead and add that to it. All right, let me get my de-noxing solution ready, and we'll take care of any excess nitric in this stuff. Okay, let's get this stuff de-noxed. So I've got my usual saturated solution of sulfamic acid here. You can get sulfamic acid lots of places. It's used as a tile cleaner. Anyway, saturated means I've dissolved as much of it in the liquid as will dissolve, and there's some left in the bottom. So let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, I figured there would be some excess nitric acid in there. I was a little heavy-handed with it. A little heavy-handed, yeah. But this is going to do a number on it. Yeah, I'd say we're de-noxed. De-noxed and diluted. Which is just what we need to do to drop gold out of this solution. Alright. So let me get set up to filter this stuff now. And get rid of all that crap on the bottom. And then we'll be ready to drop the gold. However much gold's in it. Okay, let's get this nasty lime green Kool-Aid Aqua Regia filtered here. Still a little warm, so it's steaming up the inside of the beaker. It looks like it's coming through pretty clear. That's good. Okay, it's going to take me a little while to get this all filtered. And then I'll rinse the color out of the beaker and the glass frit here. And then we'll be able to drop the gold, see how much gold's in it. It's probably going to be an ugly gold drop, but I'll take gold whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I don't care. All right, I'll be back when the filtration's done. Oh, I hope you can hear me over the death rattle of my vacuum pump down there. It's getting near the end of its life, that's for sure. Anyway, we've reached the stage of just washing the color out of the filter here. And further diluting the liquid down here, which should help the gold come out of solution. So, after I finish this, I will transfer this stuff to this now clean beaker that it came from, and we'll drop the gold. Alrighty, let's see if we can drop this gold. Get this back in this beaker. Get all of the pregnant solution out of this flask. Okay, so how am I going to drop the gold? Well, a lot of times I use SMP, sodium metabisulfite, but since I have some pre-mixed ferrous sulfate here, also known as copperas, we're going to go with it. I mixed up a bunch of it the last time I needed to drop gold, and I bottled up the extra, so I'd have it the next time I needed it. And I've got a project hogging my fume hood right now, so another good reason I'm going to do this with ferrous sulfate is I can do it outside the fume hood. It's not going to make a whole lot of noxious fumes. So I can do it out here in the open air. So we're going to mix 2 green liquids, and hopefully the result will be gold. We'll see. Well, when opaque, I'm taking that as a good sign. I'm going to put a little bit more in just to make sure we get a complete drop. In fact, I'll put the rest of this in. What the heck? I'll just have to mix up some more. And we will let that sit. And hopefully we'll get a nice layer of gold down on the bottom of that beaker. All right. That was easy and painless. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done settling out. Alrighty, well, it's been a couple hours, and the liquid is so opaque, I can't really see what's going on inside the beaker, but I can tell with my bright flashlight there's a layer of something on the bottom of the beaker. Hopefully gold. Hopefully gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to siphon the liquid off down to the level of the gold or whatever it is down there, because this is clearly a very dirty solution, and I've found that gold drops coming out of really dirty solutions tend to be very fine, colloidal even sometimes. So I don't want to disturb the stuff on the bottom of the beaker. So I'm going to very gently and carefully siphon the liquid off and leave that stuff on the bottom behind, rather than trying to pour the liquid off and stirring it up into the water column again. Might lose a lot of it that way. So okay, so let me get set up for that. All right, I just want to do a quick stannous chloride test on this stuff before. Yeah, filling 2 cells here. Before I siphon the liquid off, just to make sure we got all of the gold out of it. Oh yeah, I would say we got all the gold. That leached all the color out of it. So, yeah, I think we're good. All right, so I will siphon this liquid off the gold, and once I have it off, I'll give you a close-up look at what's left in the bottom of the beaker. You guys have seen me siphon before. You don't need to see it again. The video's getting long. All right, I don't know how much of that you can see. There's still a little bit of that opaque green liquid on there, but there is a coating of fine gold on the bottom. It is black in color, which tells me it's nearly colloidal. So whether it's going to clean up or not, I am not sure. Normally, I would give this a few cleanup boils in distilled water and then store it in my dirty gold repository for further refining. But I don't know. This stuff might be so dirty it needs to be refined right away. But I'm going to transfer it to a smaller beaker, and we'll give it a few boils in distilled water anyway and see what happens. Alright, I don't know, that gold's pretty black and fine, and it's like ink in there, even diluted with a lot of distilled water. So we'll see what happens when it comes up to a boil, whether this clarifies or not. I may end up just having to redissolve it and reprecipitate it. We'll see. Alright, so this is not working. I gave this stuff a boil in distilled water, and it is like ink. Okay, I let it sit overnight, and the gold settled finally into a layer on the bottom of this little beaker, and I decanted off the first rinse water. But clearly this gold is not gonna consolidate into anything. It is colloidal. All right, it is so fine, and I want to get it into a form where I can actually handle it, clean it up, and weigh it. Okay. So I gotta redissolve it in Aqua Regia and reprecipitate it. But I figured out why it's doing this. Why is it so colloidal? Okay. Remember back when I was lamenting that the process with the Aqua Regia was slow and lackadaisical and nothing happened, and then all of a sudden there was kind of like a mini explosion in the beaker, and all of a sudden it went from nothing to wanting to like boil over. So what was happening there was gold plating on the internal metal structure of those jumpers, and the Aqua Regia had chewed through the gold plating and exposed the internal structure, which was probably bronze, almost certainly bronze. Okay. And then once the acid chewed through the gold and exposed the bronze, well, bronze is a lot more reactive than the gold. So all of a sudden, everything took off like crazy. Problem is, what's the recipe for bronze? It's copper plus tin. Ah, tin. Tin is the culprit here. Tin and gold do not get along. And tin in your Aqua Regia will cause this, where your gold precipitates out as a super fine colloidal suspension with particles that are the size of ink. So yeah, okay, so I know that now, that there was bronze in those things. And you know what? If I had done my first thought and run those through the Mighty Mill instead of incinerating them, the Mighty Mill probably would have beat them up enough that the bronze would have been exposed during the nitric acid treatments, initial nitric acid treatments, and chewed up then, and wouldn't have still been around for the Aqua Regia treatments. So you see, again, second guessing myself always causes trouble. So I know where to go in the future, because I know Johnny, if I get a measurable amount of gold out of these, it can calculate a yield that's somewhere north of 3 digits to the right of the decimal point. He's going to send me tons of these in the future, so I'll know where to go from now on. Get rid of that bronze before we get to Aqua Regia. All right, so speaking of Aqua Regia, it's time to redissolve this gold and see if I can reprecipitate it again. I'm going to put some uriatic acid in here. There's not that much gold there. And then we're going to put some nitric acid on it. And again, see, there's not much gold there, so I'll just put, 2 milliliters. That may be more than necessary, probably. And I'll just, I may not even need to put any heat to this. This stuff is so fine. Everything is stone cold and dewy this morning, but that might actually go into solution without any external heat. We'll see. I think I'll just let it sit for a while and see what happens. And then once we get it in solution, we'll filter it again and then drop it again and see if it comes out looking a little nicer this time. Well, would you look at that? Going back into solution. It's much more reasonable color for Aqua Regia right there. Notice it's a lot less green. I did put a little bit of heat to it, just speed things up, because I want to get this back into solution this morning, filtered, and then dropped again. So, yeah, just put a little bit of heat to it to speed the process up. All right, I'm going to let this finish doing its thing and clarify, and then we'll filter it. Alrighty, I think this stuff is as into solution as it's going to get. Anything that's not in solution probably needs to be filtered out. Let me de-nox this, and then we will proceed to actually filtering it. I've probably got this in too small a beaker, but hopefully we won't have a boil over, because I've got my usual saturated solution of sulfamic acid here, which I'm going to use to de-nox it. Yeah, we got some excess nitric in there. I figured we would. I figured it wasn't going to take more than a milliliter or so to dissolve that gold in there. Okay. This should take care of it. There we go. It's going to further dilute the gold solution too, which is good, because any remaining tin in there is going to get diluted as well. Alright, so I'm going to call that de-nox. So I'm going to get set up to filter this stuff, and I will filter it into a larger beaker, so we have room to put some more iron sulfate in it to drop the gold again. So let me get set up for that, and I'll move the camera. Okay, I'm just gravity filtering this stuff. There's not a whole lot of liquid here, and there's basically no solids in it that I can see. So I think this will go fairly quickly without having to get the vacuum apparatus out. And then once I get this all filtered, oh, it's coming through nice and clean. Once this gets all filtered, I'll put it back in the fume hood, and we will drop the gold one more time. And hopefully, it will be a little bit better looking gold drop. Something that's, a little more manageable. And I can hopefully actually get a weight on. Alright, so we'll be back when filtration's done and we're ready to drop the gold again. Okay, I think we're ready to drop this gold. Hopefully we're going to get a better result than last time. Hopefully I've removed enough of the tin ions from this, and whatever ones are still floating around in there are going to be diluted enough not to cause us some trouble. So in goes some more iron sulfate solution. I'm surprised I'm not seeing anything happen. In goes some more. And that's all I've got right now. So give it a little stir. Oh, I'd say it's definitely darkening up. Taking its time. Maybe I didn't de-nox it as well as I thought I did, but it's definitely darkening up. Guess I can mix up some more iron sulfate real quick. Something's happening. Anyway, I'm going to cover it up to keep it clean. Oh yeah, it's definitely darkening up. It's not really showing up on the video as well, but it's definitely, to the eye, it's darkening up. So I guess we're getting a gold drop. I may add some more iron sulfate to that just to make sure we get a complete gold drop, but we're definitely getting a gold drop. Okay. Let's see if I can mix up some more here real quick and get it in there. Well, this whole project is turning into a comedy of errors, let me tell you. But anyway, in the time it's taken me to mix up some more of this stuff, acidify it, and start filtering it, I can tell we do have a gold drop going on. I'm going to move this over here and let this drip into there, just to make sure that we get a complete drop, all the gold out of this stuff. I'll put in the liquid I've got filtered so far, and we'll see what we get out of this. I don't know, but I can see there is a thin film of gold forming on the bottom of the beaker. Okay, we'll be back when it's done. We're ready to recover the gold. Alright, so it took a little doing, but we got ourselves a complete gold drop. The gold looks a little bit better. It's more brownish, brick brownish red than black, so that's good. But I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of it down there, Johnny. Not a lot at all. So we'll see if there's enough of it for me to weigh. I was afraid when I looked at the inky stuff earlier that there really wasn't much of it there. And yeah, that's a pretty thin coating down on the bottom of the beaker. I can't quite see through it, but I can tell it's pretty thin. So, well, I'll see if I can get it cleaned up and see if there's enough there for me to weigh with my equipment so it calculate some sort of yield. We'll give it the old college try anyhow. Yeah, that is definitely not a lot of gold there. I can kind of see through it, that layer on the bottom. So I don't know if there's enough there to move my scale or not. We'll see. I'm going to try and get this stuff cleaned up so that I can dry it out and get a weight on it. So we'll see if it'll move my scale or not. Alright, I'm going to give this stuff my usual series of cleanup boils and then dry it out. Try to anyway, and see if there's enough there to move my scale. So it's going on for its first boil right now. It's just starting to heat up. Well, hey, this is a good sign. It's come to a boil, first boil. gold's all staying on the bottom of the beaker. It's consolidated enough to do that. It's not in a water column. That's great. So what I'll do is I'll decant this liquid off through a filter so I don't lose anything in case there is some fine gold in the water column. And then I'll give it a couple more boils and then dry it out. Hopefully we can weigh it. So this is a good sign though. I like that. Alrighty, the gold's had its cleanup boils, drying it out now. Alright, I would say there probably is enough there to get a reliable weight on, so we should be able to calculate a yield. It's not going to be much, but we didn't start out with all that much material either, so it might be a respectable yield. I don't know, we'll find out once it dries up. I'll get my scale out and we will see. Alright, let's get this stuff weighed finally. There is not a lot of gold here, but I'm optimistic I can actually weigh it. Yeah, I think so. Get it unstuck from inside the beaker here. And sorry about the background noise if it's coming through. There is a lot of activity on the farm. There's a lot of heavy equipment moving around. Alright, so let's see. Yes, we are on the gram scale. Okay. Aha, 0.18 grams. Alright, wow, this reminds me of back when I first started out in gold refining and got my first 1/10 or 2/10 of grams. I was so excited. You know, back then gold, 1/10 of a gram of gold wasn't worth too much. Yeah, it wasn't so much the excitement that I was making money. It's that I was actually getting some gold out of the stuff way back then. The scale went out, but it was 0.17 and before it went out. So let's see, we started with 281 grams. So let me do a little math here on my phone calculator app. Yeah, okay. Uh-oh. All right, Johnny, here's the answer for you. 0.06% gold by weight in those jumpers. 0.06%. Yeah, most of the weight was plastic and bronze and some copper, I think. Some of them were copper. So yeah, not a lot of gold here. Hard to get rich off jumpers, Johnny. But I'm going to add this to your little gold depository. It's piling up. And I think next we'll do something that might produce a little bit more gold because you brought me a lot of stuff. So I think, seeing as gold is now over $4,000 an ounce, oh my goodness, I think we'll process some of your stuff that has a lot of gold in it. So you guys out there subscribe and we'll see how much more gold we can get for Johnny out of his stuff. And hopefully the price on it will just keep going up. Anyway, this was not a particularly profitable exercise, but it was enlightening. Now we know roughly how much gold there is in jumpers. So it's always good to know, all right? It's education. Anyway, if you guys found this video at all educational, interesting, informative, inspirational, whatever, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see my future videos. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.